Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's edition of Transformation Tuesday. I am Gregory Asar Stanton. I pray things are well with each of you as you join in this evening. I'm taking a moment here to just allow those who normally come into the room to join us this evening. Okay, you have two ways to join us tonight. You're either joining me directly through the Zoom room, and I'm waiting for those participants to show up. I see we have quite a few people in the room this evening. Let me go there. So I want to say good afternoon or good evening to Stephanie, Trinity, Cheryl, Dorothy, Mom. And to those of you on the Facebook Live feed, not the Facebook Live feed, I made an adjustment. Matter of fact, I don't even know if I can go on Facebook Live. I recently attempted to go live, and they said that my page has been restricted, and I believe that's tied to my position on the COVID. I'm not speaking the same narrative that is being hosted or the host is speaking. But I think we really need to be conscientious, critically conscientious when it comes to this COVID situation. So I'm not going to really spend a lot of time in that conversation. But for those of you who are tuning in tonight that have requested a letter of redemption that would allow you perhaps not to have to take the shot. It's called the religious exemption letter. Yes, I'll be reaching out to each of you and drafting the letter for you, or providing you with the letter that covers what's being requested. It's really interesting that they have really taken this opportunity to question some individuals, almost as though you have to give give a thesis on why you believe the way you believe, and you don't have to do that. Matter of fact, the more information you give them, the more they have to really speak to your situation in an unfavorable way. So tonight is Tuesday night, Transformation Tuesdays. We've been listening to some smooth jazz in the background. I'm going to cut that off, and we're going to get started. Okay, awesome. Great. Well, again, good evening. Welcome to this evening's edition of Transformation Tuesday. I pray things are well with each of you as you have decided to join in with us tonight. I have decided to take tonight and wrap up our class 16 weeks we've been dealing with the science of getting rich. This past Sunday, I presented a lesson that had to do with the power of your belief. I'm going to spend some time in the month of October really deep diving on beliefs, because what you need to know, beliefs are not always predicated upon truth. You could believe whatever your beliefs are very powerful. You can believe a lie, and that lie can give you the outcomes that you desire. But we want to live lives that's steeped inside of belief, that is seated inside of truth, universal truths. As spiritual scientists, those who not just say we believe something, but we know something. So for me, when I use the word belief, it's steeped inside of a knowingness. It's steeped inside of experiential. And I don't really care to teach things or talk about things that are hypothetical. I prefer to teach those things that are life-changing, that if you apply the principles, you take it to practice, you find yourself having the outcomes that are desired. So as we step into this evening's session, we're going to deal with the topic of the science of getting rich. And if you missed them, they majority of them are on the YouTube channel. I will be posting the rest of them up on the YouTube channel and going from there. So we're wrapping up the month of September practically. We are at the on the 21st day. So we are pretty much past September, moving into October, and I'll prepare to put the program up for the upcoming year out there for us to talk about. So tonight I want to talk about some cautions and concluding observations as it relates to the book. Again, the book we've been inside of is The Science of Getting Rich, Attracting Financial Success Through Creative Thought. And that's really key. Creative thought, not competitive thought. Many times we spend a lot of time thinking about how can I compete in a more significant way. Well, the question shouldn't be how can you compete in life in a more significant way? How can you compete against others? But how can you really be more creative in your thoughts? And that's what we want to begin to look at. How creative are we? Are we competing or are we being creative? Now, when you are in survival mode, we've come to learn that it's pretty difficult. It's very difficult to be creative. Creative comes from the place of being at peace. Creativity comes from a place of stress, not being under undue stress. We all have a level of stress, but when you have stress and when you have trauma and when you have your basic needs are not met, it's kind of difficult to be creative. That's why the scripture said that God is the God of more than enough. Source is he represents where everything is, and if everything is, then there's no such thing as there's not enough. Everything you need is available to you. So let's jump into this 16th chapter, and we're going to go through that tonight. And if you have any questions, you can put them right into the chat, or you can write them down, and we're going to open the lines up. We're going to have a conversation here shortly. So I'm going to get started. In the 16th chapter, it's entitled Some Cautions and Concluding Observations in Regards to the Science of Getting Rich. So here's some cautions that you need to be aware of. Many people will scoff at the idea that there is an exact science of getting rich. And hopefully by now you're at the place where you can say, well, there is a science of getting rich. Perhaps I'm not working the principles, but at least I know that there's a practical way to actually get rich. Holding the impression that the supply of wealth is limited, they will insist that social and governmental institutions must be changed before a considerable number of people can acquire wealth. And that goes with everything. When we talk about poverty, when we talk about sickness and disease, many times we talk about what needs to happen on the outside, or we hold the idea that the government must change before there can be considerable changes in the environment in our lives, but that's not true. It is true that existing governments keep the masses in poverty. Now, that is a fact, Jack. But this is because the masses do not think and act a certain way. And that goes for keep us in poverty. The governments keep us in sickness, keep us in dis-ease, keep our lives in disarray. Even though we may think that because of the government, things are much better, but the reality is your life hinges on your thoughts, and you can change what is going on in your life, be it your wealth quotient or your health quotient. Your thoughts is the seedbed by which you make the changes you need to make. He went on, he says, it is true that the existing governments keep the masses in poverty, but this is because the masses do not think and act a certain way. If the masses began to move forward according to my suggestions, neither governments nor industrial systems could hold or check them. All systems would have to be modified to accommodate this forward movement. If the people had the advancing mind and had the faith that they can become rich, nothing could possibly keep them in poverty. Simply, if they have the faith that they can become rich, nothing can keep them in poverty. Individuals may enter upon the certain way at any time and under any government and make themselves rich. And so, many times we say the conditions outside must be perfect, but it's not the outside condition that must be perfect, but it's the inside condition. How are you cultivating your seedbed or your mind? What are you allowing to be in your mind? All types of thoughts, all types of ideas, competing thoughts, competing ideas. As a result, you end up with nothing because the word says a double-minded. So you have things inside your mind that are contrary to what you desire. It says a double-minded person is unstable, instability. And there's signs of instability in a lot of people, and it's because of what's going on the inside. And what he says, and when a considerable number of individuals do so under any government, they will cause the system to be modified so as to open the way for others. So we got to get to a critical mass. When we get to a critical mass, when we all realize, or we all are talking the same speak, and we're all on the idea of one, it changes things. The more men who get rich on the competitive plane, the worse it is for others. So if people are seeing people amass wealth by competing, then that's the image that is projected, and it's bad because it's saying the only way you'll be wealthy or get riches is if you compete against those who are out in front, those who have already positioned themselves. It's like you got to fight a giant. The more who get rich on the creative plane, the better it is for others. So either way, if they're getting rich on the competitive plane, it's detrimental to more. If you're getting rich on the creative plane, then there's space for all. The economic salvation of the masses can only be accomplished by encouraging a large number of people to become rich by practicing the scientific method that is set down in this book. Now, that's interesting because even this book talks about it, but there was churches like when I was a kid, Johnny Coleman's church in Chicago. She was one of the first African-Americans and females with a mega church. And this is back in the 70s. She built this huge church, and she didn't do it on chicken dinner. She didn't do it by competing with other churches. Matter of fact, she was like the only New Thought church around. And matter of fact, silently just doing what she do. And she taught her members these principles, and that church did impact that community, and their membership was one that it represented wealth. Now, that wasn't that there weren't individuals in the ministry who were obviously from the natural eye still struggling with poverty, but they were in the right place because they were in a place of possibility. And then you had so many churches who were talking so negative against them. And even today, you have people talk about, oh, that's just the prosperity gospel. So what would you be saying if they was preaching a pauper's gospel? See, we say things sometimes that is not really critical. It's criticizing. It's things that we have not really thought about, and we just letting what needs to roll off our tongues. Or sometimes we're projecting our own issues when we talk against a person who is in wealth, or we talk against a person who is health. The number of people that, I know that there's people who are probably praying that I do have a bout with COVID because they want to say, I told you so. And it's really sad how people will, I've had people say some really crude things like, like, why don't you just take the shot? And what are you going to do if you get it? Then I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. what am I gonna do if I never get it? I'm gonna continue to live. So, and that's the same with poverty and prosperity. What you focus on is what you get. So he goes on, he says in this book, the economic salvation of the masses can only be accomplished by encouraging a large number of people to become rich by practicing the scientific method that is set down in this book that we've been going over. These people will show others the way and inspire them with a desire for real life, with the faith that it can be attained, and with a new purpose to attain it. So it's not that you flaunting it, it's just that we live in a world where people want to see the proof. And so if you're showing them the proof, then people say the proof is in the pudding. So I'm going to go in that direction. It's sad that we have so many preachers and teachers who are not giving any proofs. And now that it's time for the rubber to hit the road, they are not even talking about what they historically have talked about. Before we had this pandemic, there was probably churches talking about the blood of Jesus, talking about pleading the blood over situations and circumstances. And now that conversation is just settled down. Why? Because proof was need to come forth. And so you can't say things, and then when it's time to contend what you're saying, you jump out the ring. You got to stand. And if you don't stand on it, then you really didn't believe it. You didn't know it. You was espousing it, but you didn't know it. Same with wealth. People espouse wealth, but they don't know it. They can't show it. And we want to get to that place. He goes on, he says, for the present, however, it is enough to know that neither the government under which you live, nor the capitalistic or competitive system of industry can keep you from getting rich, okay? When you enter upon the creative plane of thought, you will rise above all these things and become a citizen of another kingdom. Now, the scripture tells us that we are in this world, but not of this world. But what has happened is we over-identify with our humanness, and we are subject to the human condition. And we're listening to the report of humans. But it goes back to whose report will you believe? Will it be God, or will it be source, or will it be man's? Will it be the universal laws? Will it be the things that you have practiced and experienced, which you should lean into, that's giving you the outcomes you desire? Or will it be because there's enough people making noise in that direction, that's the direction you go? He says, but remember that your thought must stay on the creative plane, not on the competitive plane, not on the plane of fear, but your thought must always remain on what he say? It must always be on the creative plane. You are never to regard the supply as limited or act in a competitive manner. Now, you must move from any thought that says there's only enough, or saying that there's not enough. You are never to regard the supply as limited. There's enough for all of us to be wealthy at the measure we desire to be wealthy at. Okay? And he also says you must never regard the supply as limited or act in a competitive manner. You don't have to compete. Easy breezy is the way you should go about it. Whenever you do fall into old ways of thought, correct yourself instantly. You'll know, because you'll begin to have a buzzer go off to let you know, I shouldn't have said that, or that thought is not consistent with what I am holding today. Because when you are in the competitive mind, you have lost the cooperation of the supreme power. When you are in competitive mind, you are doing it in and of yourself. When you are in the creative mind, you align with the creator. You are a created being that should be aligned with the creator of yourself. Okay? Do not spend any time in planning how you will meet possible emergencies in the future. Now, that's a big one. Most people put money aside for that very reason. Start just putting money aside because it represents your overflow. That's all it is. Don't label it emergency money, because now you're creating an emergency. Just label it my overflow. Okay, my reserve, my reservoir. For a source has a reservoir. It's out there. And when we need it, we tap into it. Likewise, when you got a reservoir, when you need it, you tap into it. But there come a point where you will probably never have to tap into your reservoir because you'll be making money or creating money hand over foot. Now, some of you listening, you may say, this is all hogwash. Then you should just come drop off the line now because you're not resonating with even the possibility of this being true. He goes on, he said, do not spend any time in planning how you will meet possible emergencies in the future. You should be concerned about how you should be concerned with doing today's work in a perfectly successful manner. That doesn't mean that you just squander or just be a spendthrift. You do what you need to do today. Purchase the things that you feel compelled to purchase today. Don't allow the check of your spirit that there may be an emergency, because when an emergency presents itself, then you have the opportunity to put the demand on source and see the manifestation of that thing. You should be concerned with doing today's work in perfectly successful manner, not with the emergencies which may arise tomorrow. You're projecting that out and it's going to work out. If you project out emergency, that emergency is going to work itself out. It's going to come to you. You're going to have to deal with it. You can attend to them as they come. Now, when you have something that you will label as an emergency or a situation, just attend to it. Just adjust around it. Just be creative in correcting it. Okay? Do not concern yourself with questions of how you will surmount obstacles which may loom upon your business horizon. If you see some obstacles, you don't have to become overly concerned with them. You acknowledge them, but you do. He says, don't concern yourself with the questions of how you will surmount them. It's not for you to know how; it's just to know that you will. Come on, that's the part of being creative. And the mountain may not move until you get right up on it. While you're a block away, it's not moving. Does it keep you a block away because it looks like it's set? Or do you continue to walk towards the mountain and say, be thou removed? And you find when you get up on the mountain, it's gone. You also find it perhaps was an illusion. There's a lot of illusions, a lot of things that presents themselves to you as though they are fixed, as though it is what it is, when it is not. It only becomes what it is, solidified, when you fixate on it and say it is. He says, ignore these questions unless you can plainly see that your course must be altered today in order to avoid those obstacles. Then you're doing what you need to do today. No matter how tremendous an obstruction may appear at a distance, you'll find that if you continue in a certain way, it will disappear as you approach it. And see, I stated that to you before even reading that piece. So I am saying to you that I affirmed what was already written before I had even read it. Or he says, or that a way over, through, or around will appear. When you get there, a way over, around it, or perhaps even through it may appear. Or that mountain that doesn't move, you get an inclination, I'll go around it, but you on your way around it, you are going in another direction, and you don't even now you're not even dealing with the mountain because now you're called to go in another direction. So sometimes there are what appear to be obstacles, but they're really guideposts for you. Now, sometimes we try to, if you got to force it, then you know that you're not in alignment with, there's no force. There's power, but there's no force involved. No possible combination of circumstances can defeat a woman or a man who is proceeding to get rich along strictly scientific lines. If you're following the principles along, you won't find yourself coming up short. So he says, no combination, no matter what the combination of situations, circumstances, can defeat a person who is proceeding to get rich using strictly scientific lines or creative thought. No man or woman who obeys the law can fail to get rich. So if you understand that, okay, you will not hurt yourself if you understand the law of gravity. Okay. But until you understood the law of gravity, you probably fell down. But you learn how to move with gravity and respect gravity. So we have to learn the other principles when it comes to getting rich, um, being in that vibration of rich. You have to operate as such. That is, one who is rich is not always receiving. One who is rich is not always giving. One who is rich is always cultivating, receiving, and giving, sowing and reaping. Some goes into the silos of overflow. Some go out to help those on their way inside of their mission. So we have to work the principles that pertains to wealth creation. All right. No man or woman who obeys the law can fail to get rich any more than one can multiply 2 by 2 and fail to get 4. It's there. It's in the math. Give no anxious thought to possible disasters. Many times, what we are anxious about, what we are upset about, are things that we are speculating or possibilities of disaster. Just like you can focus on possibilities of disaster and change your emotional state to one of anxiousness, you can focus on possibilities of success and therein also change your physiological responses. So change, just sometimes just shifting what you see and how you see it. He says, give no thought, give no anxious thought. He didn't say no thought, anxious. It's okay to think on these things, but when you get to the place where you become anxious about them, then you want to begin to soften it up. Give no anxious thought to possible disasters, obstacles, panics, or unfavorable combinations of circumstances. Even if you know something is heading down the pike, if things keep unfolding as they are, you're going to miss your cardinal. Okay, but don't give focus to that. Give focus to the creative side of what could I possibly be doing that could take care of that. Guard, he says, you will find that there's time enough to meet. Let me back up. There's time enough to meet such things when they present themselves before you in the immediate present. You will find that every difficulty carries with it the wherewithal for overcoming it. Now, it says that every man is given a measure of faith. You have always been given enough faith to deal with the situations in your life. Now, if you need more faith, ask for it. So here we have to come to the agreement that we rise to the occasion. Okay. Sometimes we want to have it all, but don't have no need for it all, or having an ability, but don't have no need to exercise that ability. And so wherever you are, be content. It says, whatever state you're in, find contentment, not complacency. Okay. Don't become complacent. Guard your speech. Never speak of yourself, your affairs, or anything else in a discouraged or discouraging way. That is a difficult one to do because the observations of what is really happening sometimes is a little more soulless in just being a forecaster or weather person, just repeating or saying what you see coming versus saying what you desire to see coming, or saying what is to be seen in the creative realm of it's already happened versus saying what is you are seeing. And so sometimes when you see something, then you speak not what you see, you speak what you see in the creative realm. Okay. So you got to guard your speech. Never speak of yourself, your affairs, or anyone or anything else in a discouraged or discouraging way. Never admit the possibility of failure or speak in a way that implies failure as a possibility. Let's guard our, not only our thoughts, but our mouths. Never admit the possibility of failure or speak in a way that implies failure. When you speak the possibility of failure, you lay the pathway to failure. Never speak of the times as being hard or of business conditions as being doubtful. Doubtful. Times may be hard and business doubtful for those who are on the competitive plane, but they can never be so for you. And I see it every day. Not to be braggadocious, but I've been working for the federal government for the VA for a year, and over the year I've got 90 veterans who have come to me for employment. Now I shouldn't have a number that high because the majority of my job is not seeing veterans, but I have a caseload that is commensurate with individuals who all they do is see veterans. And I don't compete to find jobs for these veterans. I create jobs for these veterans. When they come into my office and they just say, I want any old job. No, we don't have that kind of conversation. What is the ideal job for you right now? Now, if they say they want to be a rocket scientist and they haven't even gotten a GED, I'll say, is that something that can happen today? Or are you up for what it takes to get that? Then they'll laugh and they'll say, no. So what kind of jobs? And then sometimes when they say any job, then I say, you're thinking below the lid. What would you want to do? What would you like to find yourself doing every day? And what kind of pay do you want? And usually they'll come, they don't say, I want $40 an hour. They'll say, I want, $20 an hour or $15 an hour. And usually it's within the reasonable range. Now, you can ask for something in an unreasonable range if you can wrap your mind around it. But know this, you can't fool yourself. You know if what comes out your mouth resonates with what's in your heart. If you say 20, but 15 is resonating, why don't you just say, you know what, 15, and then increase it as you go. So you never speak of times as being hard or business conditions as being doubtful. He said you can create what you want, and you are above fear. Now, that's important. Above fear. Two things he's saying there. You can create what you want. And then he says, and you are above fear. So in order to create what you want, you have to be above fear. You can't create things in response to fear. You're trying to create wealth because you are in fear of poverty. What you are in fear of is what you're going to create. So you got to get rid of all fear, all false evidence appearing real. Okay? So know that you can create what you want. Because what you want, now here's another thing. A lot of people say, I just want what God wants. Well, you are God. No, I just want what God wants. I want as if God is somewhere out there. And I'm using God because we're more comfortable with that term, but I'm saying source. I want what source wants. What source wants to outsource to you what you want. But if you're saying, guess what? God don't want anything. Source doesn't want anything. Source as the macro concept doesn't want anything because it has everything. Make sense? But you don't have everything because you are separate from source. But the moment you become an atonist, one with, so the term aton comes from, that's where we get the word atonement, at one with. Everybody have atonement inside of their religious systems, but atonement is to be attuned with source all the time. I and the Father are one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. You cannot say you've seen the Father and have not seen one who looks like me. So what we have to understand is aligning with Source says that all that Source has is mine. And on the reverse side of that, all that I have is Source's. And that makes you a sorcerer, one who's able to operate inside of Source. When others are having hard times and poor businesses, you will find your greatest opportunities. Did you know that the biggest opportunities are when there's calamities, when everyone else is failing? Then it's an opportunity for you to succeed. If you've been for the last 15 years been having a difficult time finding a job, guess what? This is an excellent time to clean up and go get a job, because someone is hiring. Someone is looking for you. It's an excellent opportunity for somebody to take an opportunity to, no, it's an excellent opportunity for someone to step outside of what they're comfortable in and upgrade. There's an employer who's looking for you, but in other conditions, they would not be looking for you, because you would have to be competing against a whole bunch of other people, but you don't compete. You just get creative and go and sell yourself. Train yourself to think of and to look upon the world as something which is becoming, which is growing, and to regard seeming evil as being only that which is undeveloped or illusionary. If there is poverty, it has not been developed. Always speak in terms of advancement. Okay? To do otherwise is deny your faith, and to deny your faith is to lose it. So we should be advancing in every way. Never allow yourself, we talked about the talents a couple weeks. They advanced the 5 to 10. Okay? They advanced the 2 to 4, 2 to 5 and 5 to 10. They should advance the 1 to 2, or at least 3. Never allow yourself to feel disappointed. You may expect to have a certain thing at a certain time and not get it at that time. Now that's human. When we don't get it at a certain time, guard against disappointments, because now you're shifting your vibration down when you become disappointed. It's okay to acknowledge but move forward and just say a no is not a denial. A not now is not never. Can you get that? A not now doesn't mean never. Okay? A denial doesn't mean no. Never allow yourself to feel disappointed. You may expect to have a certain thing at a certain time and not get it at that time. This will seem to be failure. But if you hold to your faith, you will find that the failure is only apparent. Go on in the certain way, and if you do not receive that thing, you'll receive something so much better that you will see that seeming failure was a prelude to a great success. I talked about last week how when I first came to St. Louis, one of the places I had looked for employment was at a particular place that I was at this weekend. And I didn't get that job, but guess what? I have the better job. So sometimes what you have to realize, what you think you want may not be what wants you. What you think you want, how you've defined it, may not be what wants you. Source may want you to have something bigger. It says God's desire to do exceedingly abundantly above anything you can ask or think. So when you really run into or when you really get into alignment with, you don't even ask for things. You don't have to decree a thing. You don't have to pray. You don't pray for things. when you know what it is you want, and that thing will know you want it, it will want you. You just have to be on the frequency with it. You just have to be doing the things that you would be doing if you had it. So that's important. Going on in a certain way, and if you do not receive the thing, you will receive something so much better, and you will see that the seeming failure was a prelude to a great success. A student of science of getting rich had set his mind on making a certain business combination, which at the time seemed to be to him very desirable. He worked for some weeks to bring it about. When the crucial time came, the thing failed in a perfectly inexplicable way. It was as if some unseen influence had been working secretly against him. He was not disappointed. On the contrary, he thanked God that his desire had been overruled and went steadily on with a grateful mind. In a few weeks, an opportunity so much better came his way that now he would not have made the first deal on any account. He saw that a mind which knew more than he knew had prevented him from losing the greater good by entangling himself with the lesser. That's why I always say, let your highest and greatest good be made manifest in my life. If I think I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that thing is for me, I still, in my meditations with let your good, let your highest and greatest good be made manifest in my life. Right now, say that with me. Let your good, let your highest and greatest good. Come on, don't be lazy. Let's do this together. Let's try it again. Everybody, let your highest and greatest good be made manifest in my life. And sometimes when I feel anxious about something, I'll get quiet, but I'm saying to myself, let your highest and greatest good be made manifest in my life. If I got a denial and I know that it wasn't a no, I still say, let your highest and greatest good be made manifest in my life. And you'd be surprised how doors begin to swing open. You'd be surprised how other things begin to manifest. But you can't doubt when you pout. Okay? Pouting and doubting changes your frequency. Now, it says that is the way every seeming failure will work out for you. Everything is always working out for me. Even when things don't appear to be working out for me, things are working out for me. And you can say the same thing too. Even when things don't appear for you working out for you, things are always working out for you. Even when they don't appear to be working out for you. Two people can be in contention for something. But at the end of the day, one person wins the game, the other loses. The one who wins can say, things are always working out for me. And the one who lost can say, things are always working out for me. Even when they don't appear to be working out for me, things work out for me. I saw that on last night. I was watching the game between Baltimore, which is one of my favorite teams, that Jackson do, and against the Kansas City team. And Kansas City had beat him 4 out of the last 5 meetings. He had stated that that was his kryptonite, but he faced his fear. He faced his giant, and he won that game last night. And so I'm saying you got to always say even a loss is a win, because this prepares you for same scenario, you'll do better. So when you make failure, he says, if you keep your faith whole, he says, things are always working out for you. If you keep your faith, hold to your purpose, have gratitude, and each day do all that you can in that day. That's all you can do. When you make a failure or when you have a failing experience, it is because you have not asked enough. Keep on, and a larger thing than you were seeking will certainly come to you. Remember this. Okay, maybe you didn't ask enough. You asked for just enough, and just enough couldn't get you over. You had to ask for exceedingly abundantly above. Or you just have to be open for exceedingly abundantly above. You will not fail because you lack the necessary talent to do what you wish to do. If you go on as been directed in this chapter and the chapters that preceded it, you will develop all the talent that is necessary for doing your work. It's called experience. From every experience, I measured against my experience and I adjust accordingly. It is not within the scope of this book to deal with the science of cultivating talent, but it is as certain and simple as the process of getting rich. So not only do you got to cultivate what you have, the talent you have. Remember, where he says every man, every woman, every person, every child is given, every animal, everything that has been created has been given a talent according to its ability. And if they exercise that ability, it means that they're showing responsibility. If they're responsible for the ability that they're given, it produces possibility. The seed ability expands into possibility based on your responsiveness, respondability. You're being responsible. So you have to cultivate, manage that which is given to you. Now, he says, it is not within the scope of this, but now he calls it the same source of ability which enabled the untaught Lincoln to do the greatest work in government ever accomplished by a single man is open to you. You may draw upon the thinking mind to use in meeting the responsibilities which are laid upon you. Proceed in full faith. Let this mind be in you. What mind? The same mind that was in Christ. A mind that would have him to not consider it as robbery, to consider himself equal with God. So many of us don't want to say, I am God, because you think you're robbing God from his preeminence. No, when you say, when my son says to me, I am dad, or I am just like, that makes me feel good, particularly when I'm looking at him and he's expressing his highest and greatest self. Now, it's a one nothing if he's not expressing that. Then it makes me feel sad because I know he's don't see me for who I am and see himself for who he could be. And so I'm saying to you all that just as is this source wants you to say, I am God. My kids say, I am a Stanton. That's what you want to say. I am a Smith, or I am a B, or I'm a Reed, or whatever. I'm a Robertson. You know, we say that it aligns us with our source, where we came from. So he says, study this book, make it your constant companion until you have mastered all the contained in it. While you are getting firmly established in the faith, you will do well to give up most recreations and pleasures and stay away from places where conflicting ideas are advanced in lectures and sermons. You got to be careful. You know, some of you got to just shut down the old that you've been listening to. You know, it's the word says a little leaven the lump. You can't, you can't pour new wine into old wineskins, because the new wine is expansive, and that old wineskin has been expanded to far as it can be expanded. So we want to really be mindful of where we're getting fed. I see a thing most miserable happening today. So many people are listening to so many different voices, and they don't know, what this person's motivation is. And many people who are speaking and teaching today, their prime motivation is to get you to transfer your wealth to them. They do it for likes. You can watch the tactics. They'll have you come on and they don't start giving you the information till 15 minutes in, and then they'll only have you on the line for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you only got 5 minutes worth of content, because they're getting paid by capturing your time. They've gotten real creative to capture your time, and you got to get creative to recapture your time. Okay, do not read pessimistic or conflicting literature. Like I don't read pessimistic or conflicting literature. Anything that conflicts with what I know in my knower, I don't read it. I don't read it. And sometimes I will read things just to be able to address it to those who I'm teaching. I want to be able to address the reality that many of you may be familiar with and say, this is why you should turn away. Okay. He says he says, do very little reading outside of the writers mentioned in this introduction. So he has some particular writers that he mentioned. And so I would say to you, those who are teaching, you should have recommended reading for individuals to catch up with you, something to substantiate them while they're on their growth trajectory. Now, spend most of your leisure time in contemplation of your vision. When you're creating something, spend a lot of time in meditation, in contemplation of what you're creating, in cultivating gratitude, and in reading in things that will supplement what you're being given. Okay, he says this book itself, it contains all you need to know of the science of getting rich, and you will find all these situations summed up in the following chapters. So everything you need is right here in this small book. Sometimes we say everything we need is in the Bible. You can't see it tonight because of my lighting here, and the sun has shifted. The days have gotten shorter. It's 8 o'clock and it still would be time to go outside and experience the evening, but everything is on the shutdown right now. So that's this chapter. Now matter of fact, let me extend tonight a good 10 more minutes. And if you have to drop off, you can do that. But I wanted to just wrap it up with the summary of the science of getting rich. In the summary, he says, there is thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner space of the universe. A thought in this substance produces a thing that is imagined by the thought. A person can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. In order to do this, a person must pass from the competitive to the creative mind. Otherwise, he cannot be in harmony with the formless intelligence, which is always creative and never competitive in spirit. That's why we don't compete. Okay? A person can come into full harmony with the formless substance by entertaining a lively and sincere sense of gratitude for the blessings. Count your blessings it bestows upon him. Gratitude unifies a person's mind with the thinking mind so that an individual's thoughts are received by the formless substance. A person can remain on the creative plane only by uniting himself, herself, with the formless intelligence through a deep and continuous feeling of gratitude. An individual must form a clear and definite mental image of the thing they desire to have, to do, or to become. And he must or she must hold this image in their thoughts while being deeply grateful to the supreme power source, God, for granting him or her all their desires. The person who wishes to get rich must spend his leisure hours in contemplation of the vision of being wealthy and rich, and in earnest thanksgiving that this reality is being given to them. Too much stress cannot be laid on the importance of frequent contemplation of the mental image, coupled with unwavering faith and devout gratitude. This is the process by which impression is given to the formless substance and the creative force is set in motion. The creative energy works through the established channels of natural growth and through present industrial and social order. All that is included in his mental image will surely be brought to the person who follows the instructions and whose faith does not waver. What you want will come to you through the ways of established trade and commerce. So whatever established trade, like now, the new established trade of commerce is, let's say, the virtual world. So many people are making money hand over foot in the virtual world, doing things that they never fathomed before. So it's a new opportunity. The playing field is is leveled for many. So you don't have to compete. All you have to do is just get creative and get in the game. A person must be active in order to receive their own when it's ready to come to it. So you got to be active. He or she must more than feel its present place. You must keep in mind the purpose is to get rich through realization of the mental image. You must do every day all that you can do in that day, taking care to do each act as successful man in a successful manner. So you do everything with the intent of it being successful, giving your best in all that you do. He must give to every man a use value in excess of the cash value. Use value in excess of cash value. Example, my use value is far cash value because most people don't give me anything. So I'm being because I'm comfortable in knowing that what I need don't always come from or through those who I am ministering to. But here's a good example. He says, I like that. Every man, you must give to every person a use value in excess of the cash value. Give people more than they pay for. So that each transaction makes for more life. And he must hold the advancing thought so that the impression of increase will communicate to all whom they come in contact with. The men and the women who participate or practice the foregoing instructions will certainly get rich, and the riches they receive will be in exact proportion to the definiteness of their vision, the fixity of their purpose, definite of vision and fixed purpose, the steadiness of their faith, not wavering, and the depth of their gratitude. The deeper you sow the seed, the taller the tree, the more abundance the fruit. It's all because of what's in the root. Good book. Well, I hope something was said this evening that was uplifting and encouraging. Those who tuned in, tapped in, wasn't expecting that, but they got that. So we wrapped up the 16 weeks of the secret or the science of getting rich by creative thought, not competitive action. All right. Okay, I think I got a couple of questions over here. Hey there, March. Gibbs just logged in, but can I create what I haven't seen? That's a good. Can you create what you haven't seen? No. We only create what we see. That's why you get quiet, go in meditation, and you envision and you impress that which you envision onto the creative substance, and the creative substance goes to work creating what is being seen. Good question. Awesome. Then you said, awesome. You're answering my questions. Great. Okay. I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to open up the floor. If you got a question, raise your hand. If you got an observation, raise your hand. So we can just move it through tonight. For those of you on the YouTube live, good evening. I pray something has been said that's been uplifting and encouraging. And the book that we've worked through on Saturday School is The Science of Getting Rich, Attracting Financial Success Through Creative Thought. And the author is Wallace Wattles. Wallace D. Wattles, Wattles. Now, if this has been a blessing to you and you want to be a blessing to me, if you find any value in what I've stated, consider sowing a seed. Now, I'm not speaking to those of you who are part of the ministry that sow on a frequency. You have a frequency base that you sow on. I welcome that. But for someone who has never sown a seed into this ministry, I'm encouraging you tonight. Go to the website. It's www.theplaceofpossibilities.com. If you're on the YouTube channel, all you have to do is go to the very top, and there should be a button that will allow you to move over to About. And if you click on the About, you'll find a couple things there. One, if you're first time tuning in, hit subscribe. That way you won't miss another teaching. Secondly, you will see there the link to the PayPal and the link to the Cash App. I don't do Patreon. I'm very deliberate and intentional. I don't want to give the impression that whatever, just as this is, given is as an aside. No, it's very deliberate. And so we give according to what has been given to us. And so if you think you have just enough, that reflects what you give. If you think you have more than enough, know how to operate and put a demand, then you give accordingly. No tricks, no gimmicks, no games. I'm not offering anything to get you to give. If I haven't given you value, then you shouldn't give me anything. And I mean that. So that's all I have to say this evening. You guys have a wonderful evening. I'm going to just chill for the remainder of the evening, get ready for tomorrow. And I won't see you this Saturday. I have to make a trip back to Chicago and empty out a storage because I need to be a better steward. That's a big sum of money that I don't need to continue to pay now that I've purchased my own place. So I won't see you Saturday, but I will definitely see you Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time for Serendipity Sunday. Peace. I'm out. I'm Asar. Have a wonderful evening.